I'm joined by Associate Professor Dr. Fitri, a Senior Fellow with the Universiti Malaysia Sarawak Gamification Center, and she's also the Principal Investigator for Creative Culture, and Associate Professor Dr. J.C. Lin Minoy, who is the Director of the UNIMAS Gamification Center, who will also act as moderators and lead discussants for the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Right, so I'll very quickly share a poll. All right, so can you see the poll? Just to check that you can see and hear us well, just mark yes in the poll if everything's clear. Yeah, so it seems like most people can see and hear us clearly. All right, so before we start, I'll just quickly explain about how you can chat and interact with us during the webinar. If you have questions during the presentation, please write them into the chat box and they will be collected by the Time to Rise team as well as the ACES team. We aim to have short break during the presentation for a bio needs if you need to. And the Q&A session at the end will be for answering your questions. And if there are questions that we are not able to address during our short time, then we will address them by email to you. We will also send you all the relevant links after the event, including a link to the webinar recording. So this session will be recorded and it will remain active for future reference on the Creative Culture site on YouTube and Facebook. Right, so I'll quickly share, end the poll and share screen. All right. If you can see on your screen, I'm sharing the speaker's profile. And today we are very honored to have Zhai Gen Tan, who is the guardian of the Lemak, Nasi Lemak from the Time to Rise team. Zhai Gen is presently the research manager at the Asia School of Business, and he brings together his expertise in climate change, advocacy, and public policy research that he's gained previously from his role in Malaysia's esteemed Khazanah Research Institute. Together with his united yet multi-talented team of Nasi Lemak lovers, with their desire to fight climate change and defend food security, they will share with us a creative approach and action-oriented approach to this complex issue. So the workshop today will present practical ideas for science teachers and communicators to integrate local issues about climate change and the impact that it has on food security, specifically rice. In the journey today, this favorite dish, the Nasi Lemak, becomes extinct as rice becomes scarce. Participants will have a taster to co-create interventions and solutions. The key takeaway is the urgency to address climate change issues using creativity and scientific inquiry. So if you have any questions, as I've said before, just type it into the chat and we will address it with you at the end of the session. So with that, I will like to invite Zhai Gen and his team to share with us their co-creation and creativity in trying to solve this food security issue for the future. Zhai Gen, are you ready?
Thank you so much, Dr. Aazani. I think Zhai Gen will share the screen. So I'm Hazik. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to take you through a very short kind of teaser of what we've developed for the workshop. So as you can see on the right-hand side, there's a few chapters, but we're just going to go through a little bit of chapter 1 and 2 today. So chapter 1 begins with the extinction of Nasi Lemak. So in 2090, Ade visits a museum and accidentally discovers an old diary from 2060 in the archive. Nasi lemak, apa benda ni? It says nasi lemak was a well-loved national dish in Malaysia for decades. We had it for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, for supper. It is very flavorsome, not overly sweet nor gooey. It was served as fine dining as well as a roadside snack. Nasi lemak is why I wake up every morning. It's a pity that I can't have nasi lemak ever again. If I had the chance, I would stop climate change to save nasi lemak. Driven by his strong urge of trying nasi lemak, Ade invites you to time travel back to 2021, when it is still not too late to save nasi lemak. So Zai, the nasi lemak guardian, has been summoned from the time travel machine. However, he has been sealed and needs your help to unlock his superpowers, which would lead the team to save nasi lemak.
Hi, I'm Zhai, your Nasi Lemak guardian. Do you have what it takes to save Nasi Lemak? So now, answer the following questions in the polls to unlock me. So, let's go. The first question. Right, and I think you should be able to see the polls now. Which of the following will be affected first as temperatures rises? Will it be food supply? Will it be tropical crop yield? Will it be dryland water or wildfire prone areas? Please put your votes in and let's see what you get. Right, I see. Okay, okay. Well, right, we have a range. We have a range of different answers. All right. And let's see if a couple more trickle in. Okay. There we go, there we go. So, okay, right. So I see, most people chose dryland water scarcity and others say food supply. So let's see what the answer is. So it is A, food supply. So let me explain, right? Our food supply is very, very sensitive to threats, right, caused by the climate crisis. Any change, 2 degrees change in temperature will impact 50% of all the world's food supply. Well, you can argue maybe we can import food from other places around the world. However, for how long, right? Because at the end of the day, climate change will affect everyone. So great, great. I see. At least some people felt okay. Food supply is will be the first to be affected. Let's look at the second question. So, how will a rise in global temperatures affect smallholder farming systems? A, oh hey, your smallholder farmers can actually grow more crops because there'll be more rain. B, our smallholder farmers are not badly affected because their farm is too small. It's not a problem. C, prolonged wet, hot, dry weather can result in crop damages and all kind of nasty things that will happen for a farmer. Or, well, actually, D, your farmers actually have enough, savings, safety nets to actually protect them. So let's have a look at the answer. Well, this seems unanimous. Let's see if anyone else have a think what the answer is. Okay. Well, seems like it's unanimous, right? Okay. We do have some other folks who think it's a different answer. Right. Let's have a look. So what is the answer? So it's actually C, where nearly everybody got it right, right? That, at the end of the day, regardless of the size of the farm, uncertain weather will ruin production cycle for large farms or even to small farms, right? And it is true, right? Droughts and floods at uncertain times are affecting farmers. And I think some of us may see the news last week that there were huge floods in Kedah, and it just destroyed the farmers' crop for one whole season, right? But at the same time, earlier in the year in Kelantan, there was a drought. So therefore, and all of these are smallholders. So yes, they will be adversely affected too by the rising global temperature. However, interestingly, some farmers who adopt resource-efficient farming practices, such as organic farming and so on, seem to be more resilient. So that is something to think about. Great. So now we are near the one last question to unlock me from my time capsule. So this is the last question. Which of the following does not typically apply to a farmer? Is it A, they cultivate rice in the paddy fields? B, they are an aging population where the average age is 50 years and above, so it's pretty old. C, that they also processes rice to paddy to rice. Or D, they actually work seasonally. Let's have a look at the polls. There we go. Okay, yep. So I see many people are voting for they work seasonally. Yeah, they're getting. Next is the processing, right? Paddy to rice. Let's have a look. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. Let's have a look. Right. So most people say, what does not apply? They typically don't work seasonally. So let's have a look at the answer. So actually, it's C. Processing paddy to rice is not typically done by farmers, right? Because that process itself is called milling, right? From paddy, you turn it to rice. So that's the millers will do it generally. Now, how about the other answers? It is true that our farmers are aging, right? So it's quite old, right? Average age is indeed 50 years and above, with very few younger workers or younger farmers willing to take over from them. And they do work seasonally, right? With many side businesses and income. For example, in parts of Malaysia, they work only 3 seasons a year, right? And each season is roughly 2 months, and that's about only 6 months a year. So what do they do the other 6 months? And especially some entrepreneurial ones, they would do things like farm tourism and so on and so forth. So yes, they actually only work kind of part-time on the fields. So congratulations. Now you unlock me, your guardian of Nasi Lemak. So, okay. So thank you everyone for participating in our small workshop and poll. So welcome to the introduction session of Time to Rise. We are all very happy here to introduce our workshop to everyone. And I think we are, team of young people from various different fields, right? But share that passion, right, about our environment and our food ecosystem. And really, our workshop is really our labor of love in trying to create a tool, right, to educate about, right, climate change and how that will affect our food system. Yeah. So, and I think let me quickly introduce the whole team to you. So I'm Zhai Gen. As you have seen, my Dr. Aazani has very kindly, showed my my bio and so on. So I am the game master right here for today. But let me also introduce you to my fellow teammates who are just as important and created many of these beautiful designs out there. So we have Mitch. Say hi, Mitch.
Hello.
Yep, that's Mitch. Hazik, whose voice you've heard.
Hi, everyone.
Yep, then we have Queenie.
Hi.
Satish.
Hello everyone, long live Nasi Lemak.
Yes, long live Nasi Lemak and Shen Yi.
Hello, hi everyone.
Yeah, so we the sort of the six of us, right, work together pretty hard, and and our passion of, I think, uh, thinking about, worrying about how climate change will eventually, destroy our food ecosystem, really brought us together and think about how do we actually educate, right, the next generation or our own generation, right, to make a difference. So, so with that, let me quickly sort of introduce what is exactly Time to Rise, right? What is exactly this Time to Rise workshops? So, in summary, Time to Rise workshop uses, right, the food rice supply chain as an entry point, right, to help participants to learn more about, on general, what climate change is happening around the world, how it would affect our food production and food supply, and what are the action, and come and brainstorm together and creatively think and learn of what are the actions that can be taken, right, to ensure that we still have food in the future, and of course, to mitigate, climate change effects and so on and so forth. And how do we do that, right? So we invite participants to come into a fun, interactive, and collaborative mission to save Nasi Lemak, right? By role playing, right, the key actors in the rice supply chain, right? Such as, they can, our participants will be the farmer, the retailer, and the consumer, and so on and so forth. So we have given you that teaser, right? Earlier on in that short spiel that we did, there was a teaser on how we bring people together, right? Or how we bring our participants into this mission. And through these 7 chapters that we show later, which is if you want to put it in a summarized form, it's a gamified co-creation workshop. Our participants will be able, right, to understand key concepts and develop, right, potential actions, right, that can be taken by each of these characters that they're role playing in addressing climate change, beyond just learning the facts about climate change and so on and so forth. So I think let's start off from here. In the next 20 minutes, right, 20 minutes or more, I'll be talking about, some of the manpower requirements and tools, right, that we have. Go through, the 7 chapters and what it does, right, and what it does and what kind of education does it give. And, at the end of it, right, we might have a short break first, and then at the end, we'll have our question and answers and see, if anyone has any questions on, how, for example, how to use these tools, where are the resources, and so on and so forth. So great. So let us start off with the tools, right? Okay, so, right. So if you can see my screen, right? So just a quick fact on how our whole workshop works. So Time to Rise workshop is it's actually catered, or rather we can custom make and catered for different crowds. So it can be high school and university students, which is where our main sort of experience are at. But at the same time, right, we feel that it can be a very important, a good tool to use, right, with parents and educators, NGOs too, and even up to policymakers, right. Everyone likes a good game and a good story. The whole workshop itself lasts roughly 180 minutes, right? In its current form, we play in total 6 to 12 players, but of course, that can be expanded. In terms of the manpower, right? We have one game master, right? Or we call it the guardian of Nasi Lemak, right? As my role is, but also we have also need facilitators, right? Facilitators in the different breakout rooms. That will later, we will explain a little bit more what their roles are. And these facilitators also serve as the kind of, operations team, or the back end, right, for our workshop. So yeah, so that is quick facts in terms of the manpower that we need. All right. So let's get on with. So hopefully this clarifies how we run our workshop and who is needed, right? Okay, so without further ado, I would like to right now go through a bit of the the 7 chapters that we talk about, right? The 7 chapters or 7 parts of our workshop, roughly what it does, right? And and what it achieved, right? And from our own experiences, right? And how it is run. Okay. So typically before we start, we always have an icebreaker session, right? So the reason for an icebreaker is really 2 things. One, of course, if the participants that come in, they don't know each other, it's a great place, right, to get to know each other first. And also, I think very importantly, it primes them to start their creative juices. You think about it, right? The creative mind, right? Because this whole process later in the workshop is a very creative workshop, and here we set that tone, right? And the way we do it, and I think there are many other ways. I'm sure some educators have much better way that is attuned with your audience. For us, what we did was, because we did all our sessions online, we just asked them to draw an icon that represents themselves on Zoom. So that's the kind of icebreaker. It takes roughly about 5 minutes to get them, sort of warmed up to the story. Right. Then this is followed with what you have just seen a while ago, right? That is the storyline itself. So chapter 1, right, the Extinction of Nasi Lemak, is an idea to bring everybody, sets the scenario and bring everybody to the mood, right, of thinking about climate change and food. And I think as many educators would know, right, a story is always the best way to bring participants and students to learn and to engage, right? And I think a lot of our participants, which come from many different backgrounds, and most of them may not know too much about climate change, may have heard of it only. On the other hand, right, they may not know how their rice is produced, and they may not have made that link that, oh, climate change can affect whether or not my nasi lemak will still be around in the future, right? This is the great way of bringing them into the story, right? It attracts them, keeps them engaged. So that's what first chapter really does. And this, I think you have experienced it yourself, and hopefully, you would agree with us that this is a great way of starting that story. Now, chapter 2, and chapter 2 is called the time travel, which is where we put in the quiz, right? And again, you have already experienced part of it just now. And the aim of this part is really to provide some facts and ideas, right, for everybody to effectively participate in the co-creation process, right, later. And in a way, we want to bring everybody up to speed, right, and give them some facts that they can chew upon and think about, right, so they won't go in blind in the workshop. But at the same time, on the flip side, of course, if they are, the quiz that we chose may sound a bit difficult and tough for our audience, it was all right. And I'm sure this part can adapt in many other different ways. For example, in sekolah menengah in high school, I'm sure some of the curriculum and so on may incorporate parts about, right, the climate change and so on. And this is a great part to sort of also teach, right, students and get some of these facts, harder facts, right, into their mind. And through a story, I believe it's a great place where they can actually remember. At least I remembered many of my facts through a story, right? So that's what chapter 2 does. So at the end of chapter 2, right, and this is the key of our workshop, right? We want them to inhabit a particular role, right, in this whole supply chain, right? So we give them, we assign them a role, right? They will play later. And I think this is also, the part where we start co-creating with them. So we start to get them thinking, oh, I'm a farmer, I'm a miller, what do I do? Right. I think a bit deeper, and I, not just about themselves, but also they wonder, oh, okay, what do the other characters do? Right. And I think that's what also we found with a lot of our participants, right, who went through a workshop and say, hey, for example, many may not be familiar with, for example, a wholesaler, right? What does a wholesaler do, right, in getting food, right, from the source all the way to us, for example. So this is where we assign them a particular role, right? So chapter 3, the next part is where, so we understand too, right? If, especially for perhaps younger students, you give them a particular role, say a miller, they might not have no idea, what does a miller do. So this is the part where we arm them with more sort of knowledge, right? To understand, right, themselves or their roles. And of course, in the wider world, start helping them to think more in a sort of system level, right, on how things work in the world, right? So this is where how we do it is that we do it through a collective mapping part. So we put out a series of facts about the different characters that they have. You know, what is the role that they do, what facts about them, right, and also the kind of actions, right, that they do. And then we get our participants to sort of move freely, right? Which of these sticky notes on the board actually applies to them. So for example, right, okay, we talked about miller just now, right? The miller does processes paddy to rice, for example. So we get them to do that. And the other part of what we do is also to get them to start thinking about, within the system, right? What is the relationship between all these different characters, right? So for example, right, the farmer will be the one who will sell the paddy to the miller for miller to process the rice, and the rice will be sold down to the wholesaler and all the way down to the consumer. So we start getting them to think in terms of system that everything, or at least our food production and so on, and where we get our food is all within the system. And we also get them to start to get them to be creative. So would it be possible that we change this food supply chain, right? And I think many of our participants found with very little background, right, in knowing how our food is created, find this incredibly useful too, right, to place themselves and start thinking and start wondering a very, very simple question, right? Where do our food come from? And this is a good tool to start learning about it, right? And also to think how their relationships are as we think about, can we change our food supply chain? Maybe the farmer can sell the rice directly to the consumer. But these are some of the questions. So now, after we do that, right, this is the main show of the whole workshop, what we call gotong royong, right? So this is the co-creation part. So this is actually where we get each participant, right, to think creatively, right, about how each of your characters, right, so be the farmer, be the miller, how would you react, right? How would you deal with the changing world, right? The changing, increasing climate change crisis that is happening around the world, right? So be it, for example, adapting, right? Maybe there'll be more floods in the future. How would you be able to, as a farmer, right, mitigate or rather to adapt, right, to more frequent floods, or to actually help and prevent this at the start altogether, right? And then you give an example. It's a very real, right, threat right now in Kedah. Right now, we know that a flash flood that happened destroyed all the crops. How would these farmers react to it, right? So, and on the second level, right, I think the kind of hands-on learning, right, by doing this together, to start thinking about these questions together, is great in not just sparking the kind of awareness, right, of how climate change will affect our food, but also in learning, right, some of this knowledge about about climate change itself, and also about how our food is produced. So it's sort of like kill two birds with one stone, lah, right, if you want to put it that way. And I think this is also this part was really the main show, lah, right? Most participants find it very useful, but very interesting, and they learn a lot, right, from the despite that they may come in, it's like, oh, aku tak tahu lah, what about this climate change ke, what does farmers do, but they come out of it actually learning a lot more, right? So how do we do this, right? This is where we get our participants to be split up in the different breakout rooms, and this is where the facilitators role come in. So the facilitators are there to help guide, right, these participants. They are split up in different roles to think about two things. One, what kind of climate change events are there out there, right? So that's the first one, and it's an opportunity, right, to really teach about the different climate change events that can happen, and if maybe for older students or so on, we want to push it one level further, and we ask the question, climate change event, the weather event itself is not always the be all and end all, right? For example, right, if there's a drought, there, and there's not enough rice, for example, in the country to supply, and there will be widespread hunger, and then there will be riots, right? So the indirect effect of climate change can also be taught, right, in this manner. So that's the first thing that we get our participants to think about. And the second one to think about is what I've said earlier, right? What are the kind of actions in their own particular characters, right, can they do to mitigate, right, climate change events threatening, right, the farmer's livelihood, for example, or food production as a whole. Yeah, so this part, I think it's a very creative part. We do have very creative people who come up with some wacky ideas. For example, right, I think I remember someone was mentioning, hey, we have more floods, so why not we create a waterproof harvester so that it can even work in floods, for example, right? So we have very creative ideas that come in. So I think to make this more interactive with everybody, let's, I think, come together and let's do this, right? So I would like to get everyone to brainstorm together, right? What are the kind of climate change events you think, right, that is possible, that can happen and threaten food supply, right, or food production, and so on and so forth. Please, write down anything and come think about, put them in the chat box, right? We will be looking at the chat box. Please, come up, think about something, and we'll put it here and we will talk about it, right? So I've already given 2 examples here. There'll be increased flooding, right, due to rising sea levels, as the poles, as there'll be more erratic rains and so on, or political violence due to if you use the slang, hangry nation, right, a country that's both hungry and angry. So yes, I would like to invite everyone, feel free, right, to chime in, right? What do you think are the other kinds of events that can happen? Let's see. Feel free to type it in the chat box. We can think about could be something that you're seeing, right, in where you are right now, right? Something that is adverse weather effect that's happening. Yeah.
You can also just unmute and and just share it that way if that's easier.
Yep. Feel free, please. Okay. We have forest fire, right? Let's see. So forest fire is something that can happen. Any other climate change crisis event that you see that can happen? Excessive rains or prolonged drought? Yep. Okay. Great. I see some answers. There could be prolonged droughts and yes, soil erosion from the lost homes near beaches and islands. Yep. That could be another effect, right, that comes out of it. Let's see. What else? Ecosystem shift. Yes. Okay. It can be a social media influencer that promotes indigenous rice, right? That's an event that can happen. I know that's where some of these creative ideas, right, can come out. It may not necessarily feel like, oh, this is traditionally how you think about climate change, but yeah, the society is changing too, right? I think some of us would know that the younger people are becoming more aware of such issues, right? And they want to do something about it, right? Yep. Crops getting eaten by wild animals. Yes, that's that is an issue that will be cropping as we encroach more into the jungles for whatever land use that humans do. Like animals may be chased out, right, of the jungle, or wildfires that happen, right, and animals got nowhere to go, so they end up in farms and so on. Yes, yes, okay. Human intervention. Yep, I think uh, uh human intervention, yes. And I think in general, yes, human intervention in many things would cause that too. And of course, we always encourage our participants to think a bit more on what exactly do you mean by human intervention. Yes, okay, I see. Coral bleaching, yes, where the case where temperatures are rising in the sea, and our corals, right, are dying, right, or being bleached or boiled to death. Yes. Loss of biodiversity. Great answers. Yeah. So you see, I think this is the part where the facilitators and so on, in a small group, right? We can have that conversation and we can spark some ideas. And I think what is great too is also if you bring together people from different backgrounds, they have different ideas, right? They come together to do this. Yeah. Get more youth inspired by Greta to start their own school strike. Yeah, that itself can be an effect, right? Where more activist youth are coming up and saying, hey, what are these old people not doing anything about it? We need to strike and make a statement. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Losing different species of rice due to climate change. Right. For example, barrier rice. Yes. And this one, this is something I've always been very not passionate, but I know because my ex-colleagues in Khazanah Research Institute actually visited and also did research on looking at barrio and rice production in barrio. So that and that's true, right? The species of rice is going, and that itself would be a problem, right? Monoculture for some who may not be familiar, right? When you are left with too few species of a certain, say, crop like rice, if there's one disease that kills all of them, you don't have a backup of other species that's around. Yeah, so awareness of education awareness, yes, there's more, and also some common crops are becoming more difficult, right, to grow. Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, there we go. We have a lot of ideas here, and that's where we put them into the event card and we encourage our participants to do that. Okay, so let's quickly think about the other main part of our workshop, to think about actions, right? So we have talked about a lot of issues, or the coral bleaching and so on and so forth. Now, how do you in your character, right, deal with it? So let's do it together too. Let's imagine, right? Let's imagine we are farmers, right? Let's imagine we are farmers. Okay. So now there are different climate events that are going to happen and so on and so forth. Now you are a farmer, and here we provide, right, a story, right, to really help inhabit that role. So let's do it together. So you're a farmer, you're macikia, right? And then I think some Malaysians here might have a small smile in their head. Oh, macikia, I've heard of that name. So macikia is a rice farmer from Kedah, one of the rice bowl states of Malaysia, right? So she has been farming on her family land for the last 40 years of her life. So now, what can she do? What can she do as a farmer, right, to actually face the climate change crisis that will be coming, right? Floods happening. That's very real for her, for Macikia, who is in Kedah, say in Yan, right? So you can think about three ways, right? Mitigation ways, so how to stop this from happening at all, this climate change from happening at all. You can adapt to the different, because you need to survive. There'll be more flood. How do you adapt? Or it can be just a generic action of if you're not sure. Right. So let's again, let's put it in the chat. Let's see what can we do? What can we as a farmer do? So I think I see Jane says create seedling banks for each committee. Yep. That's an interesting way of doing it. Yep. boleh jual kuih. Yes, selling cakes also. Yep. Yes, a policy, right, to create a facility to store these seedlings. Or I think I've heard of maybe. No, actually, I definitely heard of this, right? Cooperative between, right, all the farmers come together and fund a small warehouse or whatnot, a seed bank, right? That is for the community and by the community, right? Right, that's an interesting idea that we can do. Let's see. Feel free to put in more. What do you think as a petani, right? Can you do? Okay, sell directly to customers on Shopee. Yep. So maybe I said I want to do away with all the wholesaler lah and so on. I can get more customer if I sell it directly on using new technology, Shopee. I see a Nancy say that okay, right, in Sarawak, right, a seedling bank is under Jabatan Pertanian. Okay, Jane has a question, right? How difficult is it to mill rice for farmers? Well, I think this it's more cost effective, right, when you actually gather more in a way, it's the economics of scale, right? So if you get one big milling machine, and you will bring in rice from many different farmers, it's actually cheaper, right? But in some places, and I know Barrio is, I think, in one example, right? There are fewer farmers there. There are smaller companies who, or some even maybe cooperative lah, pull together money, get a milling machine to do it. But if I remember correctly, there are also newer technology where they can make smaller sort of miller machines at a much lower price, so they can do it themselves too. So things are changing. Yeah. But previously, the traditional way is that you send to a big miller, right? So yeah. I think Aazani is right. I think that the machine is pricey. Yes, exactly. So that's true, right? For now, it's true. But if technology proves to bring its benefit, who knows? But but these are the ideas that we want to gather from everyone, and right, equip farmers with milling technologies and invest, right, in farmers with newer technologies. Yes. And yeah, it can go beyond that, right? Start venturing into space farming. Yes, we do get a very incredibly creative ideas. Satish himself is a space enthusiast, so yes, we can think about space farming, and this is also where we encourage, right, students and especially younger crowd, to be as creative as possible. There's no right or wrong answer in a way, right? We can talk about what is happening now, but in a way we want to also cultivate a kind of creativeness there. Yeah. IoT, integrate crop and livestock. Yes, that's another that's another way, right? So more efficient crop growing of crops, right? So not just have rice, but you have rice and some livestock. And this is actually fairly traditional too, right? There are places where this has been done for millennia, right? And it is very effective and very resource. It actually maintains that environment. Yeah. So great, thanks everyone for chipping in. So this is right. So we have gone through a little bit of that process and that part of the workshop. So thanks everyone again. So now that we have created the cards, right, what do we do about it, right? So that's where we move to the other main show lah, you can say, right, of the world. We call it Time to Rise. So this is where our participants, right, will use the event cards and the action cards that you've seen that we have created to simulate a climate scenario. With that, and as each participant, as their own character, respond to this climate change event. So what does this simulation do? Let me just show you how the page looks like. So what this simulation actually does, right? We hope, one, it really gets the participants and the students to really think in system, right? To think that, as you mentioned before, climate change and how it affects food systems, it's not just, it happens where each stakeholders must work together to actually, stop, in short, Nasi Lemak from going extinct, right? That, our food production system to be intact, that we have food, right, in the future. And it needs the cooperation of everybody in the system to do so. And this simulation actually helps us do that. Help the participants learn about that, right? So on the other hand, we can also think about, how this part, which involves a lot of interactive, explanations and talking from the participants themselves, in a way, it trains up their soft skill too, right? Because they have to speak up. Later, as we will do like a very short demo, right, to show you why, how that they need to actually speak up, right? And this trains, them to have more, confidence and so on, to actually explain and speak up their own opinions. So how do we actually do this, right? So if you remember, we have the event cards, we have the action cards. So for every event card so we will pick the game master, me, right? I'll pick an event card, right? And then I'll need to get everybody in the all the different players, right, to come up with an action, right? And we'll need them to explain, why they chose that action, right? So I would like to kindly invite Satish, right, to become our first guinea pig, right? So Satish will be the farmer, right?
Yeah, ready.
Okay, you're ready. Great. So okay, the card I picked is okay. Very pertinent thing. Now we know that, right, there is increased flooding due to rising sea level. So Satish, as a farmer, what can you do? What would you do? Let's have a look at Satish's card. So yeah, Satish's actions.
So I can only choose like based on these options available, right? So
yes.
Yeah. Given that there's rising seawater and there's flooding, so maybe if I'm not really happy with the options that I have now, okay, maybe I'll just go with option first lah. I'll just meet a farmer. I'll pick that option.
Meet a farmer, okay.
Session, yeah.
Okay.
So that I can listen to, okay, yeah, maybe I'll pick that first.
Okay. So Satish says okay, right? So with rising sea level, Satish would say that, okay, what a farmer do? Satish would, host a Zoom session and say, hello, meet a farmer, that is me, right? And then, people have to pay so that he can support his farm. So how do you think this would help in this situation when there is rising sea level and destroying your farm?
Yep. Since this was the only, like, some of the available options, I think this is the best card or option, because I think I can discuss with the fellow farmers and crowdsource for ideas and see, and also because everyone's on Zoom nowadays, so I think we're all connected. So I think it's a good platform also to reach out to other farmers and see what sort of ideas I can crowdsource before I do something more solid. So it's like crowdsourcing for ideas first.
I see. Yeah. Wow. So the farmer Satish is being very practical and say, hey, let's come together and brainstorm ideas. We need solidarity together to think about how do we get past this very difficult time where our farms are being destroyed and our crops are destroyed. Yeah. So there you go. Right. This is a very small, a simulation of it. So we can simulate this for a few rounds. Right. That's what we do. And with at the end of that simulation, right, then that's also where at me as game master, we will judge, right? Okay. And this is also where the system thinking comes in lah. So when all the players have put in their cards, have explained their actions, then on the game master's part, we will think about, okay, right. So has this collective action of everybody, doing this, has it, collectively try to help save Nasi Lemak, or that, you have failed, because maybe some of the players feel, oh, I want to be more selfish, right? Or I don't want to help everyone else. And then it ends up, oh, there's not enough rice in the future. So this is where the kind of discussion, right, over how to think systematically comes in too.
Can I just jump in for the wildcard session as well?
Yes.
So in case if the players are not really happy with the options that they have, so if they can't really justify, so there's like another card, right? Wildcard. It could be anything not listed on this section here. So if this time round, if I were to pick this wildcard session, so given the same situation or scenario, so maybe Zhai Gen, you could run again.
Okay, all right, okay. Let's do this one. So again, rising sea level, right? It's going to destroy your farms and so on. So what can you do, Satish?
So I'm going to pick the wildcard option. So yeah. Oh, I can type it, or I'll just say it here, right?
Yeah,
okay.
just say it out.
I'll just say it. Yeah. So being like, I mean, it could be random or anything, right? So as a farmer who's also pretty up to date with what's happening in the outside world, and given that a few billionaires out there are already venturing into space farming, so I'm going to be collaborating with a few space billionaires to start doing space farming. Since you know, the planet or the place where I'm doing my crop, I mean, like my paddy farming is not working. I still need to save the rice, so I'm going to collaborate with some of the billionaires who are already doing farming. So yeah, I'm going to go with that option.
There we go. So yes, yeah, why not? If there's not enough land in the world, we just go out. So this sort of very creative, right, ideas is where we want, right? We encourage that thinking, because I think to number one, I also believe that creativity itself is something that helps people to learn more, and also think about, what are the possibilities or impossibilities, right, and breaking them. Yeah.
And
So
just to chip in as well, I think this session is probably the most where like kind of everything culminates, everything comes together, everything that we've been working in the session together with them. So the idea of building that character or taking on that character, then you suddenly see people think about that character. They suddenly are that farmer. So they kind of forget about being a consumer. They forget about being a retailer. They just focus on that. And then that brings in a very interesting conversation, because that's where you have people thinking for themselves and they understand why people do some things they do that are, harmful for the environment. But then when you zoom out and you look at like, oh, what's everyone else doing? Oh, we can actually all do something positive together. So this is where like very good and healthy conversation happens, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, Haziq. So yes, that's also what we found from our participants, right? I think to start having these kind of conversations, and because this it's a live conversation, right? The farmer can be talking to the supplier online, say no, I disagree. And this is where and lah, right? Malaysia students sometimes are very passive. They don't like to talk about it. But when you get them in a game, get in a role, that changes them. I really believe that changes them. It took some while, right? Some participants were very quiet at the start, and this part is where, they came alive. You're like, oh, okay. But that's how I think this really can be a tool, a very powerful tool to do that. Cool. So let me quickly, right, go to the last part, right? So the last part is really the conclusion part. So we call it the to rise or not to rise part, chapter 6, right? So this is the part where we sort of close the session and talk about whether or not they have achieved the mission, right? Have you saved Nasi Lemak or not? But also most importantly is also where we get feedback, and I think feedback is important, right? So what we call the simbang session lah. So we ask questions like what are takeaways for today, what's the difficulty, what can be improved, what do you enjoy, right? And we found this very useful too, because I think it's a good place to also help participants to also reflect, right, on what they have learned, and also if they have questions to ask, and also for or on the host, and so to think about okay, right, has it worked, what kind of knowledge did they have gained, and so on and so forth. So I think that feedback session can itself be a lesson, right, to impart certain lessons if you're thinking of it like a lesson plan, right? So that's the end of the sort of the 7 chapters. Yes, Haziq, you want to chip in?
Yeah, maybe I can add in just kind of like the goals and the aims of what we want to do with this workshop. One is, yes, it's to impart knowledge, it's to have a discussion, but it's also for us to empower them to know that they can do something, whether that is as a consumer or whether it's thinking about the farmer. There's so many different options, and whether it's small or big, or team up with friends. I think in the end, what we want to emphasize on is the action. So what can you do today, tomorrow, to mitigate or to respond to this big crisis that's happening. And we carry that through the conversations that we have in this session.
Exactly. Yes. To go beyond just the session itself, but to the future too. Okay. So I think given our time, let me just quickly go to what are kind of applications we think this can do. All right. So I think in terms of application, I think we can think of it as it can be very broad, right? It can be done in the classroom, right? This is something that we have done it virtually in the classroom, and I know a lot of educators probably are doing their classes online anyway, right? This is something that we developed for it to be virtual, right? But it also can be done physically, right? So you can actually just replace all the look at the materials, the boards, and so on that we did. You can put it on a Manila card with a couple of post-it notes, for example, right? In terms of the size, right? We have tried up to say 20 plus 30 people. That's possible. Any larger, I think it's up to everybody's creativity or what you can do. As we mentioned, the workshops seem to be quite long. You can shorten it, right? Also for a classroom. But if you want a longer one, which I think is much more richer, right? More conversations that can happen. Maybe as part of a co-curricular activity, maybe club, club environment, and so on and so forth, right? Another part that some of us may think we also all keen went to school in Malaysia kan. So after exams, like we don't know what to do lah, nothing else to do, and in a very exam oriented world like ours, right? This is a perfect activity, right? It may not be inside your syllabus, why not, right? But it's something that's important to learn about. You can do it, right? Post exams without it feeling like it's very preparation for exams or study, right? You can do it in smaller settings, right? In a tuition class or even with parents, right? And so parent and child learning together. So I think this can be these tools can be adapted, right, in many forms. So where can you find our tools? So all our tools are actually publicly available. It's actually, in a way, we have made it open source. So you can find it, and if you look at our link on top, it's called the Time to Rise, right? .com. So you can actually go there and look for it. So what do we have there? So we have two things on our website. On the left, you have our sort of more, if you're interested in, okay, what are our findings, how do our sessions go, what are the outcomes? We have the publication report there, right? We have some external references for you, right? Especially on the climate change knowledge and food system knowledge that you like, how does the rice production cycle work, and so on. We have those references there. But also, if you look on the right, we do have the workshop template that you saw that I was using a while ago, right? So you can duplicate it and so on and so forth for your use, right? In fact, we have also a fairly detailed workshop manual, right? Action items for both the game master and also the facilitators. So that's all available there. So yeah, so this comes to sort of the end of me talking and me presenting, right? What we have next, yes, is Shani, I think Shani will be putting up two things, right? Our website link, and also we love to, if you love to get in touch with us, right? Feel free to fill in, Shani will put in a link there, the form, right? Interest form, right? You click it, you can reply there, and then that's also where you can reflect to us, what is the kind of use cases and so on. You feel that you have ideas about it, and we're happy to keep in touch, right? So please fill in our interest form there. So this ends, right? This part of unshare this part of my sharing, right? So I think from now, right, we have roughly maybe something of like half an hour ish, right, to converse with everybody. So what I would like to do is let's keep it sort of free and easy. If you have to, take like a toilet break lah, or coffee break lah, please go ahead, right? We'll be here, right, for roughly next half an hour. Please, if you have any questions, right, right now for us, you can put it in the chat, right? Or you can actually just, since we're in a Zoom meeting, you can unmute yourself, right, and let us know. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, everybody. Cool. So, any questions?
Thanks, Zhai Gen. That was really great. I have to thank the defenders for their effort working with trying to save the Nasi Lemak. I found it quite, the material that you've done with the co-creating of the solutions, it's very fresh. It's very different from a lot of previous ways of engaging with the community and with members of the public to know more about like what it can do to fight climate change. And so that's really different. And also the use of the mirror boards. I think the science communicators and science teachers probably can appreciate that the way the mirror boards are used, that's pretty new, especially with all the learning being online now. And something with the event cards as well that makes it a bit more dynamic. Every session you run the game will be very different because the event cards will be used differently by the participants. So it's very much about how the participants engage as well. If they give a lot and they are positive and interacting with the whole team, then they're going to get more out of it. And I encourage the participants who are here today as well to raise any questions you have about the game, or like Zhai Gen mentioned, if you're interested to have a session run at your school or with the community that you work with, because I see there's a few NGOs as well, then you can get in touch with Zhai Gen, or even email the gamification center team. All right, so I'll leave it to the Q&A, and like you say, just a very easygoing chat. Yeah.
Thanks again, Dr. Aazani, also for and then the gamification center for inviting us. I think it's a great platform to also be engaging with a broader group of people too. So I actually see one question, right? Is there a time frame to finish all the chapters? Yes. So typically our session roughly runs for about 180 minutes. It sounds quite long, right? It sounds quite long, but I think what we think, right, and that's why we left all our materials open source, is really the creativity of the teachers and so on to be able to tailor it, right, to the kind of time scale or a time frame, that the limited time frames that you may have, right? But ideally, I think what we found most useful, right, the length of time that we do it is really, it takes about 180 minutes to get there. Yeah.
We also have kind of suggested times for each of the chapters broken down. So for example, like chapter 1, 5 minutes, chapter 2, 5 minutes. So it kind of helps you keep track of time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may sort of show, let me just quickly share my Miro, right? So we do have it, as Haziq mentioned. Yes, it's here. You can see. So I think Felicia says, "Oh, I'm familiar with Miro." So let me just do a quick tour, right, to show you. So this is how the whole board looks like. Yeah, so we do have that time here, right? So we sort of make it systematic lah. So this is like, I mean, 1600 is 4 o'clock. But if you look at our other template, it will show you. So it typically runs around 180 minutes. So we've set it there, so you can actually see that there. Yeah. So let's see if there are any other questions. And as Queenie said, yeah, you can actually duplicate our toolkit right there. Yes, Thalia, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to share, like, I think for us, we did initially start this project with the intention to do it physically, but then we kind of had to innovate and do it online. So Miro came about, and I mean, it was quite interesting. It was an interesting kind of experience and experiment for us. But we would be also very interested to do it still in person and see how that happens. And kind of as well, like, we're keen to hear from the educators, the teachers here, whether you think it would work, or if you have any kind of thoughts. we're not really teachers here.
We have one, but
We have one teacher.
yeah. So I think to follow on Haziq, yeah, no, I think one interesting thing, right, we would love to hear, right, from you is, what are the different use cases, right, in the different settings where you teach, right? So, feel free to share with us, right? We're happy to brainstorm together too, right? Here, right? We might ask, oh, what if your students have certain particular interests or whatnot, or settings. Yeah, I know. Feel happy to hear from you.
If I can interject a little bit, Jane, we have a teacher, Jane, who works with primary schools, and her school is actually within a community who live around paddy fields. Jane, do you think an approach online or face-to-face of an activity like this would help the community understand the value of their product, as well as the importance of trying to address climate change issues in their community? I think there's another teacher, Felicia, as well, who lives in a very rural area, and a lot of farming still happens there. Maybe some feedback from the teachers about the game. Sorry, I'm putting you guys on the spot.
Hi.
Hi.
Jane here. I'm from a primary school nearby, Sarawak area. So yes, most of my students' parents are farmers, but for this workshop to work, it's definitely face-to-face because connectivity is an issue. One. The next question would be, how impactful will it be? Well, I see them milling their own rice. That's why I was asking, like, how difficult it is to mill a large scale of quantity of rice. And I think that would be an issue that we need to look into to address the loss of Nasi Lemak. I would like to just find out, like, I know I'm looking at your website now and past workshops that you've had. Can you just share, like, what great moment you had, or what aha moment you had while conducting a workshop that's, online? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. No, definitely appreciate that. And I think, yeah, I mean, this is the part where I must, I guess, shamefully admit, as the one who knows about rice, I know a lot more about Semenanjung than Sabah Sarawak. So Semenanjung, the rice is controlled, milling is controlled by pretty much Bernas. So there's not much choice out there. But I think I know that Sabah Sarawak is different. But yeah, no, now to your question in terms of a great moment. So let me open up to my teammates. Guys, what do you think? Right, love to share, like, hear you guys, who have what experience really jumped up at you.
Maybe I can start first.
Yes, Mitch. Yes.
Yeah, it's actually, when I saw the question, I also like thinking like which moments, but it's very hard for me to choose, because sometimes it's the experience gets so immersive, like we are just in there and enjoying, like seeing all these participants having very interesting responses, like some maybe is maybe some kind of creative answers that we don't expect from them before, like let's say like our AI rice attack, something like that. So it really interesting to see that happen. And also, like for the simulations session, when we see participants are really engaged in the session, they start to role play and become the bad characters. So yeah, it's really happy to see that they are enjoying the session. Yeah, this is maybe the most happy part for me.
Yeah, no, I think one big part is really the sheer creativity lah, right? That our the different participants from, so we had folks who are, we do have some activists, and so the NGO folks are, I know what is this about. to the people who are even sort of your corporate world that I don't know, I have no idea. I work in a bank, I don't know what's happening in the farm, right? And everybody at the end of it came, and I think we were fairly surprised ourselves. We thought that wonder would it work or not. And it turns out it works, right? That people started actually thinking deeply about it, and a lot of the responses come out and said, "Oh, I didn't know that this is how rice is supplied, and I didn't know how it can be impacted." Because it was something that they never passed their minds before. So to me, I think there are many great moments that come from it, and also I think the kind of interactiveness at the end really surprised me lah. When we talk about the simulation part, right? Then we have people started debating and arguing. I mean, not arguing like nasty argument lah, but more like debating over a certain issue, and this is something that really jumped up at me lah, and that's why I also thought that it's a great place, right, for people to when you're in that role, you're more willing to speak up, right? So that really helped jumped in my experience lah. So Azik, Queenie, Jenny, Satish, anything you want to add?
I think if I were to add, probably being invited by Dr. Aazani and the Gamification Center for this session itself is like a huge thing for us to see, we can progress this far. But I think other than that, right, because using the Miro board, because I'm like completely new to the Miro board, so I've never heard of it like prior to joining these folks here to come up with this. So at first I was a bit like, will this work? It's going to be like a bit, in terms of like connectivity and like how user-friendly it would be. And then like, I somehow like, went with the idea. And then like over the few workshops and like looking at different participants, like a few of the feedback that we got, like in terms of like, oh, this is actually a quite interesting and different sort of platform. That kind of like, it's actually nice to hear that sort of feedback and kind of like be reassured to see, it works, and some people are actually enjoying. They say like this is different than the usual stuff that they are used to seeing, so it could work. So yeah, that was some of the good things, I guess. Like I was like, this works. We're probably on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's always that last session. It's always that simulation of the game that is so interesting, because you never know what's going to happen, because the participants also, they don't get to choose their cards, right? They get given a set of random cards. So there's so much kind of randomness at play. You can't expect anything, and you kind of just have to make sense of it as you go along, which really kind of challenges your creativity and your knowledge, makes you think out of the box. And I think that's always the funnest part of it all.
Cool. So I think we have quite a series of questions, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me address a couple of ones. So I think Felicia has some questions in terms of, what about other crops, right? Because she says, her in her school, right, the setting, there's no paddy fields there. I think absolutely right. I think the rice food supply chain can be replaced with another crop too. And we did think about this, right? We did think about this, and we had discussions with some folks in the UK, right? And also a academy in the UK was thinking about running it in the UK. And obviously, rice is something that's not in their lives, right? So it can be actually transplanted there. What is needed perhaps is a little bit more knowledge of of course, the crop that that may be more closer, right, to the students that are that's in your area. What is the process of producing that food?
Yeah.
So I think that's the part which you just need to tweak. But otherwise,
Yeah,
I think it's fairly easy. Yeah.
It
Sorry,
also
Hadik.
doesn't have to be a food. Like, the reason I think we chose food is because all of us here, that's what we're passionate about. We love our nasi lemak. But for example, it could also be about cotton and about the fast fashion clothing industry.
Yep.
It just I think the mechanism and the system is set up. What needs to happen then is just the research and the facts to go, like, being input into the system that we've set up. It can be used for anything, really. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Mitch, yes, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, if I may add, so this co-creation canvas, we call it canvas because we have the basic sort of like the basic framework of everything. So feel free, like you can plug in different teams, because more or less the supply chain is the roles are the same. Like you have a producer, you have a transporter that transport the goods, you have manufacturer, you have retailer, you have consumer. So actually, yeah. So for example, like if let's say we will do it in UK, perhaps we can do it like fish and chips. So you can just change the farmer to fisherman. So yeah, it's like the idea is the same. So when you have the co-creation canvas, you can feel free, you can modify it based on your desired content. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I think Nur Huda has a question, right? So is there a minimum requirement restriction to run this? No, so our whatever that's on the website, you can actually duplicate it and use it. Right? So you don't need to. It's meant to be open source. But you also mentioned that know that that hang on. Yeah, and I think in terms of other languages, to just to address that question too. I mean, yeah, I think other languages is something that we can think about, definitely, right? And it's just a translation of these different items and so on in Bahasa. Is, for example, in Bahasa lah, right? That's also fine too. And yes, please do, if you're interested in all these different ideas, yeah, please fill in the form and get in touch with us, right? And I think we can brainstorm about something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think on the minimum, I mean, there's no minimum requirement at all,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
But it would be nice to kind of maybe get in touch with us. Maybe we can help you as well, kind of tailor it if needed, or kind of advise you if there's anything unclear. And we have been thinking about translating into Bahasa. It just takes some time.
Yep.
So hopefully we're getting around to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then I have two here from Ali Rice. Padi Bukit and Padi Sawah is very different. Yes, exactly. Yep, there's something that I'm not too familiar, and I think Dancy also mentioned that. Okay, Paddy experts in UNIMAS, Dr. Helena and Dr. Freddy. Yeah, no, I think definitely, right, can think about how to adjust it to sort of the Sarawak paddy industry, or especially, right, yeah, correct, Healy paddy and so on, because to be frank, how the system, or rather the supply chain they've built, is very much modeled after the peninsular like supply chain. And this is a great example, right? You can talk to us, have a chat, and then we can see what is we can advise, or maybe how we can actually translate some of this into more sort of local relevant, right, things. Yep, thanks for filling the form. Right, we will definitely, right, we can keep in touch. So yes, anyone else? We have end roughly 5:30, but of course, I can stick around a bit longer too. Yeah, anyone else with any thoughts, any questions, any comments? Okay, right. Do you have a workshop? Also have a workshop how to use the app so that facilitators and teachers can be familiarized with this. Yes, we can definitely, right, keep in touch, and we can do this too. Yes, we can definitely do a sort of train the trainers lah kind of session. In fact, we can actually run the whole workshop so that you can feel it together with us, right, how we do it, and then you can take it on and use it in the different settings, right, that you have. Anything physical? Oh, okay. Planning to have anything physical made for the game module. I see Haziq is smiling. You think you want to talk about it? I mean, definitely, as we talk about it, you can, this whole model, right, can be replicated on Manila card lah, and so on, in a physical setting lah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, so for now, we're kind of taking it step by step. And yeah, like Zhai Gen said, all of this can be replicated physically. It's probably much easier as well, because you can just move all the, post-its. In the long run, we also have plans to make this into a game, possibly a card game, that can then just, be in a pack, and you can just play it with your students. that is, maybe a few years down the line, but that is the plan. So it's a great question.
Yep, no, that's a great question. Okay, so I think I've been reminded about something else that we can show, right? So keep your questions coming. Let me just quickly show what we also have done, right, in our sessions. So we actually also gotten you know graphic observers, right, to come and be part of the process and think about and observe and then draw it out graphically. What are the observations they have on ideas about how climate change can affect, and what people's participants' ideas on how climate change can affect our rice chain or our food production, and what can be done about it. So I think if you look at our screen right now, we got very creative sort of artists and so on to come and join us and have a think about it, right? And also see what they can garner out of it. So yeah, we do have very cute sort of designs and so on, which it can be something that can be done too, right? I know maybe for a more creative kind of inclined students or participants, this is also a great place to gather new ideas, right, on their creativity lah, right. I'm not the most creative person in the world, but here are some of the excellent or great friends and so on who have designed some of this artwork, right, to represent, right, some of the conversation, right, that came out of it. Yeah.
To add on to it is like each session, because we have different groups of players, so the role of graphic observer sort of like capture the essence of what we have gone through during the session. So for example, Zai Gen, if you can move up, so we have really interesting ideas during workshop 3 up. Yeah, there's this grab farm idea. Yeah, if you can zoom in the graphic. Yeah, we have grab farm, and there's also like yeah, so yeah, so
Yeah, you can see the attack of the insects and all that. It's very immediately graphic, and you immediately understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah, and I think and JC's comment, these graphics can be used as triggers, right, for those. Yeah, exactly, right. And I think some of these graphics and graphical visual art itself can also spark discussions and thoughts, right, that comes out of it. Yeah, Angelina, yeah, thanks. I think the illustration really is the work of our excellent friends who joined us and kindly, listened in the whole session and drew, what they saw and what they heard. So it was a great one. And yes, I think definitely is something that is very interesting thing to teach in class, and kind of stumbled on it, and we felt that, yeah, actually, why not, right? And especially since we done it virtually, and nearly virtually every class that's done, at least for the last year, has been virtual, right? These are creative ways that educators and so on really can use, right, to make the classroom back to be the classroom that a little bit closer back to the classroom, that the physical classroom that used to be, where we could actually play together, right? So yeah, definitely.
If I may add something.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think the beauty of this game is like the participants are not required to have any prior knowledge in all this, because if they don't know about it, they can use their imagination and creativity with some prompts from the facilitators themselves. So like, for example, a lot of our participants, when they join us, they are like, okay, I don't know anything about the food supply chain of the rice, of paddy, of like, I don't know what the farmers do or millers do. And then the facilitator can feed them with some prompts and like to stimulate their thinkings, and then they can imagine with their own creativity, such as the second picture, if I'm not wrong, it's something like aliens eating all the paddy crops and things like that. And then if that were to happen, and then we play in the whole gaming session and say like, okay, now what all the parties should get together to do this, and then it kind of help each participants to think that how complicated it is, and then how climate change exacerbates all these difficulties. So yeah, that's why I think it's a very interesting tool to use to build your lesson plans. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think we have maybe in the last 5 minutes. You know, anyone else with any? Oh, okay. Right. JC has a question. What if facilitators themselves are not familiar? Are there other prompts and triggers that could be used to assist them? Yeah. So I think if so, I think in terms of the let's talk about, you know, sort of, and I think what some people would worry most lah, the knowledge, right? Oh, I might not, I myself may not know a lot about food supply chain and so on. We actually do have, right, on our website, right, some of the references and also the material, right, to help get a bit closer, right, to the material itself, right? So I think that's one thing. And number two, I said also, all of us do have, you know, a collective knowledge of certain parts of the different parts of, you know, growing different crops and so on. So and that can be, you know, you can use other crops or other, you know, supply chains as part of that this game. That's one. Um, and yes, also I think we also do, right. Let me just show you. For rice specifically lah, right? We did in our oh my gosh, in our website, right? We actually also included, right, the prompts, right? You'll find this part in our Miro that, you know, you can find on our website. There are these triggers that are there, right? It's a bit wordy, but it's there, right? You can actually look at it, right? And it gives you some idea, right, how to run it. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so
we've sorry, sorry.
go ahead.
We've tried our best to kind of put all the information out there so that if you spend time, you can definitely do it on your own. But also we understand that, you know, this is very tedious. So that's why we also open up the forum that if you're interested, we would still be
Yes.
available to kind of run the sessions. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
there, although we try not to be.
Yeah.
These prompts are available on the Miro, the toolkit that we have sent, but it's also available in PDF form on our website. So you can also download it if you prefer to read them in PDF form.
Cool. That's yes, the is suitable for secondary and college uni students. Yes, yes, I think that's something that that's important. Yeah, for those who are, you know, starting to learn about the and will be in that industry. Yeah, no, definitely. This tool can be some fun way of also trying to get them to know about it, and maybe, you know, have a closer idea, hopefully, right, of what is happening out there in agri-tech, for example. So yeah. Cool. So yeah, I think it's already 5:30. Yeah,
Right on
Dr.
time.
Aazani. Yeah, we're right on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to you,
you.
Dr. Aazani. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely, at least I'm definitely around for a while if anyone wants a more, you know, smaller chat. I'm not, but of course, you know, we go back to you and see if, you know, how we can do this. But yeah, thanks a lot again, everybody, and thanks again for ACS for hosting us. So yeah, back to you, Dr. Aazani.
All right. Thank you. Great. Thank you so much. So just very quickly, we're already on time, 5:30. The usual celebratory at the end where we'll have to take a group picture. So I'll just have a quick request if everyone can switch on their cameras so that we can take a picture. And I think JC will take a picture, and who else is co-host wants to take a picture together?
Yeah, I think yes. Let me clear my chat. Okay, if we can have everyone. Oh, I like Angelina Bong's background. Some more? Anyone? Felicia Wong. All right. Let's smile. Give your best smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm gonna take another one. Hold on. Okay, 1, 2, up, Wong. 1, 2, 3. Yay. All right, so I'm gonna share it in chat now. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you for
much.
coming, everyone.
I would share it on chat, yeah, in a bit.
Okay. So can you still see my share screen? No, right?
No, yeah, no.
Okay, I will. Okay, now?
Yes, yes, we can see it now.
Okay, so thanks very much. Just a very quick note. Please email us if you are interested to know more about the work that we do. And I will share definitely all the links that have been shared by the TTR. And just a little summary note of discussions that we've had, and that will go out by email. So those who are with us today, but you have not registered and you want your digital cert, please feel free to still fill up the registration form so that you can get an email from us. And in the future, we will also send you the links to the recording today. And just a very quick announcement. A little bit about the Gamification Center. So the UNIMAS Gamification Center welcomes all teachers, educators, trainers, parents, friends, and those who are interested to advance gamification solutions for their education and innovation. So our network of collaborators represent a unique mix of experts from all over the world. And we aim to provide a physical and intellectual space as well. As you can see from the slide, we actually have a physical space where we have peer-to-peer networking, and we provide training sessions as well as projects. We collaborate with projects that work on change and on collaboration. So we are open for any opportunities, and we really appreciate the sharing session we've had today with the Guardian of Nasi Lemak as well as the Time to Rise team, showing us how they've used game-based learning, and it's playful and yet it's serious, and they're trying to address very serious issues and trying to co-create for solutions in the future. Very quickly, another slide, which is we can be found on Facebook as well as on Twitter. And we also actually have a TV channel on YouTube where the videos will be made available in the future. So we will email you the link if you've registered. So thank you very much for participating in today's webinar. And we really hope to see you again in the future and see you soon. Thanks again, everybody.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good weekend, everyone.
Thank
Yep, have a good weekend.
The weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sabrina, Ellie,
Stay safe, everyone.
Jason, JC,
Stay safe.
Bye.
Rowena.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.